everybody. Good morning. Welcome to those who are here for the first time, and welcome to everyone who's returning. So if you're here for the first time, raise your hand if you would. Now y'all look around and see who's here so you make sure you meet him after the service. Hey, we're so glad you found us today. Welcome to Santa Rosa. Well, how's your week been?
Good.
Great. Really? No stress, huh?
But you didn't say anything about stress.
Great stress. With a smile, he says. Wow. All good news all week, right? No kidding. Where were you when I needed you? Now listen, I have a couple stories for you this morning. Are you ready? Maybe not. I had a couple of phone calls this week that really touched my heart very deeply, and I want to share this one as we start this morning. We have so much to be grateful for, don't we?
Yes.
I mean, we're sitting here healthy this morning. We got here all by ourselves. I got a call from a friend of mine that I hadn't seen in quite a long time, Debbie, and she called really at the edge. She was distraught because she had just gotten news that a beloved nephew had taken his life. And you know, you wonder, don't you? What happened to the hope light? You know, what happened to the hope light that's in all of us? In this young man, he could no longer find the light of hope. And she needed some hope because the family remedy for her sister was take more Xanax. Yeah, that'll work, won't it? Take more Xanax, that'll heal your heart. Have a few more drinks, that'll heal your heart. And so this sister was at wit's end, like, how do I help my family? How do I be there as a light of hope for my family? And that's what we're all called to do, aren't we? We're all called to be a light of hope in this world, which means we've got to keep it alive in ourselves, because we can't give what we don't have. So I talked to Debbie for a while, and you know, we talked about the truth together, that within each and every one of us there is a divine spark. And the great work of our life, one of the great works of our life, is to keep it alive and well and nurtured and bright. And sometimes it's not so easy. Nevertheless, we are called to take action, because without action, what happens to hope? So I thought it would be good for us to kind of reflect this morning on what does hope mean to you. You don't have to say it out loud, but I'm just inviting you to reflect on what does hope mean to you, and we'll explore it a little bit more. And what do you hope for today in your life? Because if hope is alive, it's got content. Because hope is substance. It's the energy, it's creative energy that calls us into some kind of action. So it's important to know, what do we hope for? What do we hope for our own lives? What do we hope for in this holiday season? Last night I called a friend of mine and I said, I need a little Christmas. Let's go to UTC and look at all the Christmas lights. And if you go on my Facebook page, you'll see me standing next to this wonderful creation at UTC where the restaurants are. There's this big thing that has greens on it and a big big word in light that says joy. You know, it doesn't take much to keep that hope light lit. So what keeps it lit for you? What keeps it lit for you? And how do you keep it alive? So take those with you as you go into your day and your week and the rest of the holiday season. The theme, I want to work on 3 things with you. Try to integrate 3 things because today is the first Sunday in Advent, and the first Sunday in Advent is about the energy of hope. Second thing is we have entered the month of December, and for us Unity folks, December is the month of life, divine life, vitality, creativity. Can I hear an amen?
Amen.
Vitality, creativity, like jump in your chair. Woo!
Amen.
Like that. And we're also continuing with our series, which is The Great Work of Your Life. And this particular chapter is titled, Turn Your Wound into Light. You've heard the story of the cracked pot, right? We're all cracked pots. Right? I can't imagine that any of us had made it this far without a few cracks. But the great work is to let that internal light, the grace light, shine through it anyway. Anyway. Not to seal up the cracks or pretend they're not there, because they can be our strength and our power if we let them. So all those things. I'm going to start with a Christmas story. At the beginning of our Christmas story, we find Zechariah, who is a priest, by the way, and he is up in years, and he's married to Elizabeth, who is Mary's cousin. And Zechariah and Elizabeth had been praying for years and years for a child. And nothing happened. However, came a day when Zechariah was in the temple praying, and the angel Gabriel, which represents a message from God. How many of you have ever noticed that you've been divinely guided? I hope all those hands are up. You know that out of nowhere comes, do this. And so Gabriel was announcing to Zechariah that Elizabeth was pregnant and going to bear a son named John, which represents love. So all of the good that we can create comes out of a heart of love. Now we also know that Zechariah said, you gotta be kidding. Don't you, you know how we get, right? Yeah, but. So Zechariah said, yeah, but I'm too old, and so is she. And Gabriel did not like that response. So Zechariah couldn't talk about it. Scripture says he was struck dumb. He couldn't talk about it because he couldn't believe it. Because he couldn't find his hope for it. But Elizabeth was all fired up. She got it. So what's the message? That it's perfectly human to have issues with keeping our hope alive and well in the face of not getting what we want and what we prayed for oh so long. It's perfectly normal to have those doubts come up, but Elizabeth, who represents thoughts of love, ideas of love. That's why it helps to stir up. What is it that I hope for? What is it that I love? Because it stirs up that creative energy in us, which is Elizabeth, and she's all hope and all faith. So in the midst of that darkness of it isn't going to happen, and the light of our hope flickers off and on, off and on, off and on, it's to hang on anyhow, and let the light that never goes out unless we absolutely cannot find it in the clouds of doubt. Never goes out. So here are the stories I want to tell, and I would like for you, in as much as you can, to listen and let it stir up your own memories and stir up your own creative spiritual energy and stir up your own hope. So the first one is about one of my buddies who has talked to me for 2 years about getting into his Armani suit. It was his hope. It was about his health and well-being. I want to get into my Armani suit. That'll be a sign to me. That'll mean that I am healthy again, that I am at my fighting weight. 2 years. And he's also been telling me for 2 years that he has a book that he wants to write. How many of you maybe have a book you want to write? You're to it. And for 2 years it hasn't quite happened, you know what I'm saying? So I'm the big, don't let me get behind you because I'm going to get you there. The great prodder. No, the great encourager, the great encourager. So I talked to him last month and he had made great progress. Oh my God, he had a chapter outlined. And then when I talked to him this week, guess what? The book proposal is done. Now what does that tell you and me? It tells you and I that when Spirit gives us something to do with our lives, a purpose worth living from, we also are equipped to make it happen. And no matter what the obstacles might be, my friend had all kinds of reasons why he wasn't getting in his Armani suit yet. By the way, he's in his Armani suit. Yeah. All things come to those who wait patiently on the Lord. Second story is about, oh my gosh, I heard it on the news Friday night. It's another football story. If you've been here for a while, the last few weeks, I've had a few football stories, and I don't know how come I'm hearing about the football stories, but that's what's on 60 Minutes in the news. But this is such an incredibly powerful story about hope and the light of hope that shines eternally within us. It's the story of Jake Olson. When Jake was only 10 months old, he got cancer of the eye, one of his eyes. He went through 8 kinds of treatments, and finally, the eye was taken. Jake loved football. As he grew up and he got into school, he started playing football. One eye. Then in high school, the cancer returned in the other eye. Went through more treatments. The team and the coach worked with Jake, thinking, okay, he didn't want to quit football, his love, his hope, his power, his strength. He didn't want to quit it. So he thought there must be some position I can play with no sight. And there is a position in football that you can play with no sight. With a few signals, he was able to snap the ball. Yeah. That's not the end. Jake Olson went on to play football for USC. The news showed him the last game of the season, and he, in his USC football uniform, walks through the tunnel and out to the field, accompanied one side his dad, the other side his guide dog. The thunderous applause. Is there something that you and I can't do? Is there some hope that you and I can't realize? Our book, the book we've been using, The Great Work of Your Life, the author Stephen Cope uses as an example of this, or an illustration of turning the wound into light. Like Dan did, whatever the wound was in his mind that kept him from his Armani suit in his book, he turned it into light and got it done. Whatever the wound was, which was no sight for Jake Olson, he let the light within him shine through that wound to give hope to hundreds, probably thousands. Everyone who was watching TV Friday night, I'm sure. And then in the book, and you probably all know this story, Stephen talks about one of the most renowned composers and musicians in history, Ludwig van Beethoven. Beautiful sonatas he wrote. Did you all know that he went deaf? Yeah. And he went through those despairing moments, like how can I? Where hope went off and on, off and on. But he got hold of himself, or God got hold of him, or Gabriel shouted loud enough that he remembered the treasure in him. The Dharma that he had dedicated his life to, which was his music, the gift God had given him. And that gift kept his hope light lit so he could go on and write some of the best music ever, deaf. Is there anything you and I can't hope for? So whatever we're telling ourselves these days, or whatever wind of darkness blows on our candle of hope, we could shield it with returning to that hope and remembering that it is the Christ within, the divine spark within each of us that is our hope. And we come to realize it, we come to feel it and experience it through what?
Dancing?
That's my answer. Action. Action. Yeah. We can hope all we want, like my friend was hoping every day that book would get done. But he wasn't picking up his pen. He was hoping every day that he'd get in his Armani suit. But he wasn't exercising. So you and I, whatever our hope is, the hope in Beethoven wasn't going to go anywhere until he sat down with paper and pen and started writing the notes that he could hear in here. Not with these from out there, but there was music in him. And there's music in each of us, uniquely played by the one source that created all of us. And it seeks to be played now and every day in some way. So I thought maybe I'd share a couple of scriptures. So just close your eyes, and this is Paul speaking to the Ephesians, and Ephesians represent our desires. And he said, my prayer for you is this, that God gives you a spirit of wisdom and of revelation in the knowledge of him, having the eyes of your heart enlightened. Imagine light in your heart right now. Having the eyes of your heart enlightened, that you may know what is the hope to which he has called you, and what are the riches of his glorious inheritance, and what is the immeasurable greatness of his power in us who believe. The immeasurable greatness of his power in us who believe. So what are you going to believe for today? What are you going to believe? Take a deep breath, and when you're ready, open your eyes. So we have treasures that matter in our hearts. Let today be the dawn of a new hope for each of us and the desires. Remembering that if God can do it for Zachariah and Elizabeth, he can do it for you and me, and will, if we keep our hope alive. Oh, that's the Armani suit. I went searching online and said, give me a picture of an Armani suit. And I like the picture of the guy in it, too. There's Jake Olson in his USC uniform with the help of his teammate running onto the field. And Beethoven, even in his deafness, writing music. So what will we write this Christmas season with the light in us? I love what Albert Camus said, in the middle of winter, I at last discovered that within me is an invincible spring. So you know, Jesus was called the day spring. So within each of us is that invisible day spring. It's alive and active, even when we can't see it. We see it as a result of our hope and faith in action. We see the Christ because we see the results of living by faith and hope. Are you ready?
Yes.
Yes, don't you love it? I mean, the enthusiasm is kind of overwhelming. Hope is the scope of an invisible power. It comes to your aid in your darkest hour. You can only see it by the steps you take, and you can only experience it by the limits you forsake. It's a light within that shines in the dark. It's the song of a lark that empowers you to embark on your dreams. It's a treasure to be mined and the good that you'll find if you look for it. God bless.